You know what's funny? There's this moment that happens to so many of us and no one really talks about it. You're sitting at a table, maybe it's dinner with friends, maybe it's one of those casual get-togethers where everyone's talking over each other, and for once you've got something you actually want to say. Not small talk, not filler, something good. You know exactly how it sounds in your head. It's clear, it's sharp, the kind of thing that if you said it the way you hear it in your mind, would make everyone at that table stop for a second and really listen. So you start speaking, and then right in the middle of it, it's like your thoughts start colliding. You lose the order, you trip on a word, you double back to fix it, and suddenly you're not smooth anymore. You're just talking, hoping it lands. And you feel it. That tiny shift in the air. Nobody's judging you, not really, but you can tell they're no longer fully with you. And that version of you, the one you know exists in your head, the sharp, captivating version, she just didn't make it out. So you laugh it off, you sip your drink, you move on, but later, maybe on the way home, maybe in the shower, it hits you. Why does this keep happening? Why can't I just say it the way I know I can? And I'll be honest with you, this is not about vocabulary or projecting confidence. You've probably tried all of that. It doesn't stick because the problem is not the words. The problem is the way your mind works in that split second before you speak. And that's where we're changing. So no, I'm not here to give you scripts. I'm not here to tell you to practice in front of a mirror or pretend to be someone you're not. What I'm going to give you is different. 4 simple, strange little shifts that change everything. They rewire the way you think so that when you open your mouth, the room feels it. And once you learn this, you won't just talk differently, you'll move differently. You walk into any room and you'll know, without even saying a word, that when you do speak, people will lean in. Alright, let's get into it. Here's what I've noticed. Most people have incredible ideas. They just bury them under mountains of words. They start talking and it's like they're walking down a long hallway, stopping at every door along the way, opening this one, peeking into that one, hoping that eventually, if they keep walking, they'll arrive at the point. And the problem with that, by the time they finally get there, the room has already lost interest. That's the way most conversations go. Someone begins with a thought. They add some context. They wander through a few extra details, and eventually, if you're still paying attention, you might discover what they were actually trying to say. People don't have the patience for that. When you speak like that, you make them work for it. Now, I want you to imagine doing the exact opposite. Imagine starting with the thing that actually matters, the end of that hallway, the door that actually leads somewhere, and then walking people backward step by step so there's never a second where they're confused about why they're listening. This is what I call the reverse funnel. Instead of letting your thoughts spill out in a straight line, you flip the process. You decide what your final point is, the single most important thing you want them to hear, and you drop it first. You don't build up to it. You don't lease it. You claim it. And only after you put it on the table do you bring in the details that support it. Let me show you what I mean. Here's how most people talk. I think we should probably update our marketing strategy because engagement has been dropping, and I was looking at what our competitors are doing and it seems like their new campaign is actually working pretty well, so maybe we should test something different too, and blah blah blah. Now, here's the reverse funnel version. The key to our next quarter is updating our marketing strategy. Engagement is down 15% and our main competitor just spiked 20% with their new campaign. Here's how we fix it. Do you feel the difference in that? The first one is like wading through fog, hoping you'll eventually see the shape of what they're trying to say. The second one feels like a statement, and from the very first word, you know exactly where it's going. When you lead with your point, you don't sound like you're still figuring it out. You sound like you've already done the thinking and now you're simply delivering the conclusion with such clarity that people have no choice but to listen. When you speak this way, the effect on the room is immediate. People stop trying to decode what you're saying because there's no mystery left to solve. They already know the destination and now they're just following you to see how you got there. And once people feel safe in your clarity, they relax. They start trusting you. This is the difference between sounding interesting and sounding undeniable. Because when you talk like most people, you put the weight of your words on your listener's shoulders. You're asking them to stay patient while you circle your way to the point. But when you reverse it, you take that weight off, you do the heavy lifting for them. And that's why this feels so magnetic. People want to listen to the person who makes it easy to listen. Let me make this even simpler. You're talking to a friend who's overwhelmed because she's been staying late at work every night and you know exactly what she needs to hear. Normally, you'd probably ease into it. Yeah, I totally get it. Last year, I was the same way. I didn't know how to say no and I was exhausted all the time until I finally learned to set boundaries. Now watch this. You need to start saying no at work. I used to be in the exact same place and here's what changed everything for me. See it? Same intention, completely different impact. The second version doesn't wander, it lands. You take control of the conversation without raising your voice or trying to sound confident. You're not pushing, you're leading. Once you start practicing it, you actually feel lighter when you speak. You stop filling the silence with extra words because you're no longer trying to build your way to the point while talking. You've already decided what the point is, and all that's left is explaining it in a way that feels inevitable. And people notice it. They can't always explain why, but they feel it. Suddenly, you're the person in the room who doesn't ramble. You're the one who sounds certain. You're the one who speaks, and everyone else instinctively pays attention because they know from the first sentence that you are going somewhere worth following. So, here's how you start. Before you speak, whether it's in a meeting, with your friends, or even texting someone back, give yourself 2 seconds. That's it. 2 seconds to decide what is the actual point I want them to walk away with. Lead with that, and then build everything else around it. The first few times it will feel strange because you're breaking the habit of talking the way everyone else does, but once you start doing this, you're going to notice the shift. Most people think they're good listeners, but they're not. They don't listen, they wait. They're standing there, nodding, maybe smiling, but the whole time they're quietly rehearsing their turn. It's like watching 2 people play conversational tennis. One person speaks, the other person hits back, and the ball just keeps bouncing without anyone actually stopping to look at it. And you can feel it, can't you? You can tell when someone's only half there. They're looking at you, but you can't see it in their eyes. They're already somewhere else, building their response, polishing it, waiting for the perfect opening to throw it back at you. And when you talk to people like that, it's exhausting because deep down, you know they're not really hearing you. Now imagine the opposite. Imagine someone who doesn't just nod along, but actually drops into your words like they're sinking underwater. There's no rush in them, no readiness to pounce. Just this quiet anchored presence that makes you feel like for once, someone is actually there with you. That's what this second trick is all about. I call it the submarine. Here's how it works. When you speak, you surface. You come up, you make your point, you take your space. But when the other person is talking, you submerge. You shut down every part of your brain that wants to jump ahead. Every little voice that's trying to craft a clever response. Your entire job in that moment is to disappear into their words. You've probably noticed how rare this is. Most conversations are full of little interruptions, filler noises, impatient breaths that tell you someone's already halfway to their next sentence. But when you use the submarine approach, you create silence, and silence is powerful because here's what happens. When you stop drafting your reply in your head ahead and actually give yourself permission to listen, to really listen. You start hearing things you normally miss. Tiny shifts in their tone, the way they pause before a word, the little pieces of truth that most people rush right past. And the funny part is, when you do this, people can feel it immediately. There's something magnetic about being in the presence of someone who's not in a hurry to jump in. It's disarming in the best possible way. They lean in without even knowing why, because it's so rare to feel that kind of undivided attention. The next time someone's speaking and you feel that urge to plan your answer creeping in, I want you to do one simple thing. Repeat their last 2 or 3 words in your head. That's it. If someone says, "I've been so tired lately because work's been insane," your mind quietly echoes, "Work's been insane." Why? Because it forces your brain to stay locked on their words instead of running off to build your speech. It keeps you submerged, fully present, until it's actually your turn to come back up. When you finally respond, your words won't feel rehearsed. They will feel sharp, direct, and natural because they're not a script. They're a reaction to what's actually happening in front of you. You're no longer just another voice waiting for your turn. You become the person who makes them feel heard in a way they didn't even realize they craved. And when people feel heard, they open up. They start giving you more, telling you things they wouldn't normally share, because on some instinctive level, they know you're not just listening to respond, you're listening to understand. That's the kind of presence that makes people come back to you. That's the kind of presence that makes your words carry more weight when it's finally your turn to speak. Because when you surface after truly listening, it's different. You don't just speak, you drop something that lands. Words are cheap until you make people see them. And this is why so many conversations fall flat. We sit there carefully choosing our adjectives, stacking fancy terms on top of each other, thinking that if we just sound smart enough, people will finally get it. But that's not how it works. Nobody is sitting there diagramming your sentences in their head. They're not analyzing every syllable. What they're really doing is building a picture. And if you don't give them one, their mind will wander. They will nod, but they won't feel you. And if they don't feel you, they won't remember you. That's where this trick comes in. I call it the visual palette. Before you open your mouth, whether it's for a presentation, a conversation, or even telling a story over coffee, I want you to pause for just 1 second and pick 3 to 5 clear, striking visuals you want to plant in their mind. Not phrases, not bullet points, images. Because once you know the images, your words start wrapping themselves around them like they were meant to be there all along. If I told you, this project was really hard, we had a lot of challenges, it took forever, you'd probably nod politely and move on. There's nothing wrong with that sentence, it's fine, but it's not sticky. You're not going to remember it in an hour. Now imagine I say this instead. This project felt like pushing a boulder the size of a car up a hill after a storm. The mud was thick, and every time we thought we'd made it, that thing would slide back a little. But we didn't stop, we dug our heels in and we kept pushing. Do you feel the difference? You're not just hearing me anymore, you're there with me. You can almost feel the mud on your shoes. That's what the visual palette does. It turns your words into a movie that plays in their head. Humans don't think in words first, we think in pictures. When you speak in visuals, you bypass all the overthinking, all the overanalyzing, and you land straight in the part of their brain that actually cares. Because people don't remember hard projects or a lot of obstacles, but they will remember the boulder, the mud, and the way you made them feel like they were in that fight with you. That's how you stop sounding like everybody else and start sounding unforgettable. And this is not just for storytelling, you can use it anywhere. Explaining an idea at work, paint it. Sharing something personal with a friend, paint it. Even flirting, oh, trust me, paint it. Because the moment someone can see what you mean, they stop just listening. They start experiencing you. And that's when they lean in. Most people think that if they just speak fast enough, if they get all their words out in one breath, if they keep talking without leaving a single pause, somehow they sound smarter. They think speed makes them sharp, impressive, impossible to ignore. But have you ever actually listened to someone who speaks that way? It doesn't matter how good their ideas are, half the time you can barely follow them. Their words blur together, and instead of sounding commanding, they sound like they're trying to outrun something. It's exhausting to listen to. And more than that, it's forgettable. The people who own the room, the ones you can't look away from, they're never the ones rushing. They know that their presence is strong enough that no one's going anywhere. That's the energy of someone who doesn't have to chase attention because they already have it. The self-imposed speed limit changes everything. Whatever pace you think is normal for you, whatever feels natural in conversation, you pull it back. Just a little. Not enough to sound unnatural, just enough to make it feel in your own head like you're speaking in slow motion. 10%, maybe 20. And yes, it will feel strange. You'll probably think you sound too slow, maybe even boring. You'll want to rush again. What feels slow to you doesn't sound slow to anyone else. To them, it sounds intentional, confident, because when you slow down, your thoughts have room to settle before you even speak them. You stop throwing your sentences out and instead you start placing them. Each one lands exactly where you want it. The silence between your words, those little spaces you used to be afraid of, becomes your greatest tool. You've probably seen this happen before. One person is rushing, trying to fill every second, and then another person, calm and deliberate, says one sentence, and the whole room goes quiet. That's what happens when you impose that speed limit. And if you've never tried it, I'm telling you, it will feel like stepping into an entirely different version of yourself. Okay, but won't I sound too slow? Won't people lose interest? No. People don't lose interest when you slow down. They lose interest when you rush, when you go too fast. Nobody can keep up, so they just stop trying. Try just one of these tricks today. Pick the one that scares you the most or the one that feels almost too simple to matter and actually use it. Then watch how people respond. And when you do, I want you to come back here and tell me. Drop it in the comments. Tell me if someone leaned in closer. Tell me if you saw that shift in their face. And if you want me to go even deeper, if you want a part 2, let me know. Because I promise you, we're just getting started. This is all for today. I hope you enjoyed this video. And yeah, see you in the next one. Bye!